Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. France faces a historic moment as former President Nicolas Sarkozy begins a prison sentence over alleged Libyan financing of his 2007 campaign, raising sharp questions about political accountability. We'll discuss the implications and challenges for President Macron and the recent Louvre jewelry heist as well, with our guest Benjamin Sibille, founder of the Collectif pour un service civique européen. Good to have you on TVP World. Let's start with this major day. Today is the day that former President Sarkozy is going to go to prison. Tell us briefly why that is. I mean, he's the first former high-level politician in Europe to go to prison. Tell us why and what's behind it.
Dzień dobry. It's a pleasure to be with you, even if in this unforeseen and a bit sad circumstances. So it's a long story because it actually starts during the presidency of Mr. Sarkozy, or even a little bit before. He has been basically accused and at this time condemned, even if it's not a definitive condemnation because he's still appealing it, probably in a court that will be judged in 6 months. He's been accused of basically using foreign money, in this case, money coming from the regime of Gaddafi from Libya, in order to fund basically the presidential and legislative campaign that eventually made of Nicolas Sarkozy the president of France.
Mm-hmm. And also, I'm curious as well. I mean, he's going to try and appeal this. I mean, at the same time, he's going straight today. I mean, it's a big symbol, isn't it? I mean, this is someone who was very much, not just as a French president, but as a personality, someone who held his head high. That's what he's saying as well, going into prison. But I'm curious, what is the perception on the ground? How do ordinary French people view this as one of their former presidents going to jail? Is this seen as justice? Is this political targeting? What's the mood by the ordinary Frenchman?
In order to know that, we'll have to ask every single Frenchman. But in summary, the general mood is that it's sadly not it's not a single judiciary affair that happened. You could have in mind, and it concerns every single political parties. Recently, Marine Le Pen has been condemned in a corruption case. Previously, and actually a strong candidate against President Macron in his first election, Mr. Fillon, who happened to have been the prime minister of Mr. Sarkozy, has also been condemned in a corruption case. Neither of them have gone to prison, but the repetition of those diverse affairs tend to tire the French public. So there is probably a general sentiment. People would like to have more justice. Actually, what we can hear in the media, but also in the public, each time this affair happens, is that we don't want to have impunity. We would like that people who are condemned actually go to jail. And this is probably also what the judge had in mind when he decided that actually Mr. Sarkozy, even if he's appealing, will have to do his jail time. Now it's still possible, considering the age of Mr. Sarkozy, that in 2 months the judge pronounced an exit of the prison while waiting for the definitive trial for the appeal.
Mm-hmm. And also at the same time, we're just seeing images there of the prison La Santé, which also has its own history there. I mean, if it's connected with the Dreyfus affair, one as well, he'll be held, I believe, in his own separate cell for security reasons. And we also saw some images earlier of him there awaiting still that final car ride into the prison. I'm curious also, on Friday, President Macron actually received Sarkozy. Now, I have a quote here saying that it was normal on a human level. I should receive one of my predecessors. Was this, to you, to the French, a political gesture, strategic optics? Why did he receive him?
It's quite customary for a former president to meet time to time with the current president, especially in time of a political crisis. Now, of course, this is without precedent. It's the first time in the Fifth Republic that a former chief of state is actually condemned to do actual jail time. So it's not totally non-understandable. I know that in the media it has been talked a lot about the possibility of a presidential grace, and it's true that in France, according to the Article 17 of the Constitution, the president can decide for any kind of crime to grant grace, but actually it could be the case only in case of definitive condemnation. As Mr. Sarkozy is still denying any kind of charges against him and is still appealing this decision, actually a presidential grace couldn't intervene in this case at this moment.
I'm also curious, I mean, at the same time, Macron has received him in the last few days. All of this is unprecedented, as you said. At the same time, also, we have an interesting quote here from the Justice Minister. If we look at Mr. Darmanin, who said that I will go and see him, being Sarkozy. Now, how do you interpret that? I mean, that's the Justice Minister himself saying he will go see the incarcerated former president. What do you make of that?
Actually, it is part of the job of the Minister of Justice to go visit prison in order to ensure that they are proper to welcome prisoners. We could wish that it takes the same care for all kind of prisoner, because right now French prisons are still around 120 or 130% of capacity. Apparently, Mr. Sarkozy will be jailed in isolation for security reasons, like you reminded. It will be, though, quite a humble setting, approximately 10 meters square, alone, with the possibility to be visited by his family and his close one 3 times a week, because he's still considered innocent up to the final judgment. But yes, definitely it is a real prison time.
At the same time, I'm curious on the politics of all this as well. I mean, Sarkozy was, if we look at the spectrum politically, a little bit more on the right. How is this, if anything, going to impact now? France is facing a lot of internal political heat, let's say that. How is this going to impact, if anything, the future presidential elections or any of the upcoming French politics?
Mr. Sarkozy was, since his presidency and also before, the strong man of traditional right in France. The party is called Les Républicains. It is coming in a very long tradition from traditional right or center right. He was, though, for a long time, not particularly active, but still very present in the media. It's not so much the case that he was still the chief of the party in some sense or another. It was more that the party didn't manage ever to get, let's say, a heir to his time as presidency. And of course, like the recent fall of Prime Minister and renaming of the same Prime Minister, Mr. Le Cornu, what changed between these two compositions of government is that in the first one, there was still participation from the center-right party, and in the second, not. And actually, the party torn itself upon the question of participating or not to the government, voting or not with the government. So the party is right now very much weakened. So of course, having the last President of the Republic from this party now condemned to jail is a very tough movement.
I want to jump briefly towards the end now, also against more of a backdrop, your cultural background, of course, what would happen in the Louvre with the robbery on Sunday. What do we make of this now? I mean, there's a lot of accusations of missing security cameras, of vulnerabilities, generally that was ignored. And realistically, how, if anything, can we expect of these stolen jewels to be returned? Is that now no longer happening? What's the mood there in Paris and in France of what's happened after the robbery?
The public in general is quite shocked by the case. Of course, the inquiry and investigation is still ongoing. So at this time, it's not impossible that actually the police is closing, and if they were to do at this moment to find the people who committed this crime, probably they will not say it publicly. So The actual answer is that we don't know. But for sure, the Louvre Museum is the biggest museum of the world, with some of the richest collection from the world. We could look back at history. The last time there was a big robbery at the Louvre in the 20s. It also happened during the 70s, but we could think of the robbery of the Joconde. The man actually at the time just entered the museum, took the painting and left by foot. So it's not uncommon. Of course, now with all the security that we could imagine in a modern museum, the public is a bit shocked that it happened. What made people sad is that because it's jewelry that can be easily melted for gold or stolen or sold for the rocks, it's possible that we never find back those very, very precious historical items.
Yeah, you said it's very precious, and I think the world remains in shock at all this. So another, let's say, headache for France to deal with, unfortunately. Look, we'll close it there. It's always a pleasure. Benjamin Sibille there, thank you so much for your insights today. Appreciate it.
Pleasure shared, David.
And thank you for joining us here on World Talks, but stay tuned. There's much more coming up right here on TVP World, so don't go away.